So while we're waiting, I just want you to know that I was about, I don't know, 15 years old when I taught Kimberly. So just so you know.
She was a baby genius. And I want to say a shout out to Amanda Hartman, who was also in my cohort. And I think this speaks to Lynn's actual commitment to her students, that we still engage and work with her in different ways. So thank you.
I just saw Amanda. I just wrote to her in the chat. I was like, oh, wonderful, wonderful to see you all.
Are you guys ready? Tons of questions. You're going to stay here till midnight. Okay. Pick one or two because it's already 10:20. So I'm going to just quickly go over these questions. You can go over it, and maybe each of you can pick one or two questions to respond. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, just go through all the questions. We have more. Okay.
So Lynn, I was perusing the questions while you were talking, and there were a lot of questions about how do we replicate teachers like Rebecca?
Well, I think that we can take a lesson from Rebecca in terms of collaboration and community. You know, Rebecca would be the first person to say that for her as a teacher, working with other teachers, they can be young teachers, experienced teachers, collaborating with others is what helps her to grow, is what helps her to be conscious of her own practice, is what helps her to take risks. And so I think that if we want teachers who can do certain things with students, then we need to be thinking about their experiences and their preparation that mirrors that. You have to study what you need to learn, right? You can't create inclusive environments if you are not part of one, have never been part of one yourself. And I think it's important also to say that it doesn't happen overnight. You know, I've known Rebecca now since the beginning of the residency program. So I met her in 2010, so we've known each other for 10 years. And the core of Rebecca has remained entirely the same, but what happens around that core is changing and developing and evolving all the time. So part of what, and this is something I've been talking about for a very long time, you know, I feel as though teacher preparation needs to be kind of an evolving process. What we do now is we give people preparation, we qualify them and send them out, you know, to schools and classrooms. And they come back, you know, for all kinds of professional development and what have you, but it's all very piecemeal. So I feel as though we need to think about a continuum of preparation as well as a continuum of professional development. And that in some ways, if teacher preparation actually could be segmented so that you learn what you need as you're moving into different phases of your growth trajectory.
Lynn, I think that's important. One of the things that I've noticed, especially now during COVID, is that so many of our teachers are experiencing trauma, and then they're working with students who are experiencing trauma. And this idea of looking at self and developing and healing ourselves and coming to the community as a whole person, and continuously doing that, right? Because Freire talks about how this idea of critical consciousness is never finalized. It's always evolving. What you're saying is definitely critical and important. Another question that came up a lot was about technology, and now, you know, a lot of what we're talking about is relationship building. How can teachers use the technology and what's happening right now to help create or replicate what Rebecca is doing,
Right.
engaging the students.
Well, I think the first thing that we have to remember is that, the use of technology should change teaching. And what we have done instead is to try to use it to replicate teaching. So, you and I were talking about this before we started, that I've had so many conversations with principals who have been very pleased by the fact that they've been able to follow the school schedule as if they're still face-to-face and have 6 hours of instruction each day, and it's all I can do not to cry, because it should be different. So technology should allow us to think completely differently about what we're doing. And technology should definitely be used to focus on the things that we usually don't pay attention to these things anyway, all the so-called soft skills. And now during COVID, they've just fallen off the table because we are just concerned about getting that content into students as if they're going to actually remember it. And, a lot of the content we're teaching is history in the sense that it's yesterday's news. We are teaching so much stuff that kids actually don't need. And we are not paying attention to anything that they do. And it is possible, and so this is what we need to do, is we need to look around us. I know people who are doing amazing sort of relationship things, social interactions with technology. Amazing stuff. It is definitely, they're building community in their classrooms online. So it is possible to do, but we have to care about it.
Yes.
That's the first thing. We have to think it's important.
Yes. Another question talks about, how can they develop rural residency programs? Should those be different or similar to the ones that we see in urban settings, and how you implement them and how you go about them?
So there are some rural residency programs, and in fact, so the interesting thing is that a colleague who was part of the first round of TRTC, which is an urban residency, then went to the University of New Hampshire, which is a rural university, and then wrote a proposal for a rural residency program. So I would certainly suggest that you go on their website and look at, it's called TREE, Teacher Residence for Rural Education, I think it stands for. And the short answer is that yes, it is different. The fundamental principles are the same, but some of the context obviously makes a difference in terms of implementation. One very simple thing, this actually happens in urban areas too, but it's exacerbated in rural areas where you might have only one science teacher in a school for 50 miles around. Residents, that's one thing you need to think about in terms of mentor teachers, particularly if you're trying to prepare science teachers. The other is that because schools are so far away from each other, that residents are often living in the communities where the schools are. Whereas in urban residencies, they're not necessarily, they're traveling to the communities. So there definitely are differences, and they definitely, rural residencies definitely do exist.
Great.
So I see one question about what age should, sort of social justice and politics and what have you. What age, these kinds of tough concepts complex concepts should be introduced to children. And I would say that any age and every age. So I'll tell a story. I know lots, I'm so lucky to know lots and lots of really, really great teachers. And two of them are right here, Kimberly and Amanda. But in New York City, Yvonne Smith, who has been, were you ever in Yvonne's classroom when you were in the program? Because Yvonne's been teaching for 1,000 years.
Nikki was
Okay,
Yvonne's student teacher.
And so she teaches 4 and 5-year-olds. And many, many years ago, she and I had a conversation. I interviewed her for a chapter that we ended up writing together about assessment. And she said, people say to me, what do you do with 4 and 5-year-olds? Isn't it like just playing, babysitting? And she said, we talk about sex, politics, and power. And people, of course, their jaws fall open because they think, what can you possibly say to 4 and 5-year-olds? And she said, you have to, of course, think about it in a 4 and 5-year-old context, right? So sex is about relationships and friendships, and who's in and who's out and who's going to hold my hand. And power is about resources. And if I have all the red crayons and you want one, how are we going to negotiate that, right? And religion is about beliefs. Did I say religion? Yeah. That it's, how do buildings that are 100 stories high, how do they stand up? How do they stay up? What are things that, you believe about life and love and the community and how things work? Those are things that happen for 4 and 5-year-olds. So there is no age where issues cannot be addressed, but in ways that are, age appropriate. Because, and she says, and this is a beautiful phrase, she says, those young people are in the world stew. They are watching it, they are listening to it, they are part of it. They may not understand it all, so they need teachers to help them make sense of it.
All right. I think this is a good place to end, even though we still have tons of questions. All right. What do you think?
I'm so sorry, but thank you so much. Thank you for all the great questions.
Yeah, this is definitely a lot of stimulating questions here. So I would like to thank Dr. Lynn Goodwin and also Dr. Kimberly White-Smith again for a very, very inspiring talk, and also giving me hope. Even though today we are faced with so many challenges, and also technology seems to be more posed as a threat and challenge for us. But I do think we are human beings. We have faith, we have trust, we have hope for human beings. We are strong, we are intelligent, and we know how to handle the future and how to handle the technology and how to handle their education. So thank you very much, and definitely go back to our theme: love, unity, and peace and hope. All right. So I wish I have more time for you all, because I'm very interested in this topic, and I also definitely learned a lot from both of you. So before we end, we have several announcements. First, it's actually, this talk is going to go right after this one, start at 11:10. Okay. So, and this is about an event called Educational Summit hosted by the IAUSS. I'm going to give a talk. It's called Turning Crisis into Opportunities, using positive psychology to help international students cope with the new international challenges. The Zoom ID is at the bottom, 665-5999-4508. So if you are interested, if you're in China willing to stay late, feel free to join us. And next week, we are going to have another distinguished speaker who is also my husband, my role model, and Dr. Stephen Boynton. He got his PhD from Columbia University in East Asian history. And he will be talking about a topic. It's called Imagining Our Way to the Promised Land. Imagination at the path to a better tomorrow. The ID, Zoom ID, and the time is exactly the same as this one. So you're welcome to join us. And Dr. Sing Ho Moon from Chicago Loyola University will be serving as the discussant. Okay, so these are our future foreigns. September 12th, we're going to have a distance education in era of pandemic, challenges, opportunities by Yubo Zhang from SAI. And also I'm happy to share you with Dr. Shitao Fan. I don't know if you know him. You should know him, right? Dr. Shitao Fan. He was a professor at the University of Virginia. Right now he was at a Chinese University of Hong Kong, okay, as a dean. So he's going to be serving as our discussant for September 12th. And for September 26th, very sorry to share with you that our September 26th talk will be canceled because Dr. A.G. Rudd, his wife, just diagnosed with cancer, and he had very, very sad, I know, because he would really love to be part of this conversation. On October 10th, Dr. Gerald and Postiganeo from University of Hong Kong will be talking about a very sensitive topic and politics and power, Dr. Goodwin. Okay. Sino-US relationship in the new era, the role of university. And he will be given two versions. One is totally in Chinese and on October 10th, and another one is fully in English on October 17th. And our last talk will be given by Dr. Jin Ling, a very expert on the world peace. So he will be talking about the world peace, peaceful wisdom from Taoism to world culture. She will also have a book launch on September 16th about her book just published. Okay, I can send their announcement later. All right, so with that being said, I invite you all to join AERA, okay, American Educational Research Association, and I was the past SIG chair of 171 SIG, and we will have a full virtual conference, I think April 9th to April 12th, all right? So definitely scan the code and join us, and you can have more opportunities to interact and learn from educational, experts like Dr. Goodwin and also Kimberly Whitesmith. All right, with that being said, I thank all our sponsors and all our fantastic volunteers. We have a whole team of volunteers working behind the scenes that are extremely responsible, hardworking, and passionate. So definitely thank you all very much. Okay, with that being said, thank you all very much. And for all the friends in China, have a good evening. And for all the friends in the US, have a wonderful day. See you next week. Thank you.
我们都是地球村里的村民，我们是教育创新的先锋，我们咫尺千里，豪气万丈啊，有爱滋润干渴的心盆。我们虽然来自世界的各地，我们却怀着同一个梦想。我们携手共进，鹏程远征，我们用爱的力量改变世界。
So we all must lend a helping